morning and welcome. A little yoga Pilates fusion this morning. So I have a bunch of different yoga props nearby, like some pillows, yoga bolster, some blankets, got some yoga blocks. These will come in handy later if you have those at your house, grab them. And then you can decide whether you want to do something like put the blocks underneath your back, or you can follow along with me and just take a blanket. So I'm going to take a blanket, open it up so that I can get it to a point where it's about as long as my spine plus a couple of inches for a little bit of extra headroom. And then roll it up so that it's kind of smooth. For me, rolling it into about thirds or so is about the right amount of space. And then if you put the blanket down, then just kind of make sure that it's smooth enough or even enough that you're not going to roll off of it. Then the bottom of the blanket can go anywhere from about right just above the pelvis to about the middle of the rib cage, really. I like mine just below the bottom ribs with a little bit of space between that, the blanket and the hip. But you can do it whichever way seems right to you. So once you lay back over the blanket, or if you're using blocks, you can certainly lay over the block. Now, one little caveat with blocks is that they are a little bit pokier. So the block needs to be high up your chest because the shoulder blades need to rest on the block, but not the rest of the ribs. So the blanket's forgiving, right? So it can go pretty much anywhere that seems appropriate. And again, so my last rib's about there. So if I put the blanket right about that spot, it feels pretty good. A little bit lower works pretty well. Now, you can do a little extra bend in the blanket to make a little bit more height for your head, or you can leave the blanket more level, depending on what your needs are there. If you keep your arms, you don't have to hold them in, but if you just keep them a little bit more neutral, so it's a little bit more just kind of where the arm would naturally fall, this will land deeper in the shoulder in the little muscles that stabilize the shoulder, the arm bone in the shoulder blades in the joint. Okay? If you take the arms out wider, this will get a little bit more into a chest muscle stretch. So you can decide which way to roll. Now, as for the legs, you could leave those in constructive rest position, which is feet resting on the floor, knees in the air, just find a place where they feel like the femur bones kind of descend into the hip sockets a bit. Or you could put the feet together and drop the knees open like little butterfly wings. That'll give you a bigger stretch of the inner thigh. Or you could just stretch the legs out and allow them to relax. That's usually my preference. So you decide. Get a final little snuggle of your shoulder blades under you. And then once you've got this all settled in, then you become aware of the breath. Because we're allowing the blanket or the blocks to kind of help us undo any little postural habit that we might have in our sleeping pattern. We're also going to try to undo any shallow breathing patterns that we might have. So start by just breathing deep into your diaphragm. Breaths, about 3 or 4. We're going to hold the diaphragm just a little bit back by just kind of holding the navel a little bit, and then let the ribs flare with the breath. So not as easy to get a deep breath this way, so it can make you feel a little bit breathless, but we are going to just try to get a little movement in the muscles between the ribs. And go back to a nice deep diaphragmatic breath. For about another minute or so, just breathing deep, about 3 or 4 breaths, and then do 1 breath to kind of open up the ribs. Take 1 more big breath. And if you've got stuff underneath your back, we're going to take that stuff out. So you might have to roll to your side to slip out what's under your back. Come back onto your back. Make sure that if you have joined us a little bit later here that you mute your microphone so that the camera doesn't swing over to your lovely black square there. Muting your mic on your end would be awesome. Right. Okay, we're just gonna do our best here this morning. So I'm I'm just checking out what happened with my back. Kind of noticing how there might be kind of an impression left behind, or the back might have shifted a little bit. Now we're gonna go a little deeper into the chest muscle. We'll also get the hip. So we're going to bring the legs up. We'll start with a little bit of movement and then we'll land. So we're going to bring the legs over to one side, bring them into the center, bring them over to the other side, bring them into the center, bring them over to the side. And see if you can keep your shoulders mostly stable on the floor as we just kind of roll through these little rolling twists. A little close to my furnishings here, but I'll get away in a minute. So one more set of those. Now, we're going to come over to the side and let the legs rest. Now, if you need a little extra support, you can certainly take your blanket or your block and slide that in underneath the edge of the leg or in between the knees. And then we want to go for this stretch in the chest. So we're going to extend the arm out. Now, you can turn your head either way, towards the arm or towards the knees. And then we're just going to experiment with creating some length by rolling the hip away from the armpit. And taking some nice deep breaths like that. Make sure your microphone is muted if you are not currently muted. Two more breaths. We're going to bring the legs back to the center. Pause for a moment. Rinse out that arm. And then just see if there's a difference in the way the two arms feel. And And there shouldn't be an unpleasant sensation. If there is, when you do the other side, be mindful of not overdoing. Sometimes if we move beyond an appropriate amount, we might wind up with some soreness at the end. But if it feels light and pleasant, it's probably, you did pretty good. All right, so we're gonna take the legs the other way. Again, you can kind of wrap the legs around each other. You can let them drop over the edge of a blanket. You can stick extra props in there to make it a little higher up. We're gonna take this shoulder, try to bring it all the way to the ground, stretch out through that arm, and we're trying, just creating as much as we can some space between this armpit and this hip by allowing the hip to kind of fall away from that arm. And again, you can turn your head either direction. Make sure you're taking nice deep breaths. Two more. And then we're going to bring the top leg back to the center, and along with the other leg. We'll pause there. All right, yogis. So I'm going to move back up my mat a little bit here. We're going to take the right leg, bring it in, and hold onto it. Left leg's going to go out stretched. Hugging onto that right leg, you're going to spin your right foot in circles. And then go the other direction with the circles. I'm going to point and flex the foot. Now we're going to reach up through the heel, see if you can get that leg all the way straight. And then bend the knee, bring that leg in a little tighter against you. Push the heel up and away from you, see if you can get that leg a little straighter. You've got a hamstring stretch, you're doing it right. And then hug it in. Don't tear your hamstrings out of your butt. Just a little bit straighter might be all you need. And then bend the knee and hug that leg in. All right, we're going to let this guy come all the way up straight. You're going to tuck the shoulders underneath you so the shoulder blades are nice and firm. Press down into the floor. The leg's going to come across, and then we're going to sweep a circle. Oh, I'm going to diagonal myself here. Okay, so the leg's going to go across. We're going to sweep a circle out and around. And our task is to try to hold our torso nice and stable. So you're going to hug in through the sides of the waist, press this long leg into the floor, press your upper back into the floor and your arms. And then keep going. Trying to hold the torso nice and stable even though the leg is making this big circle. All right, so hugging in nice and tight. When you come to the top, we're going to pause there. Take the leg out to the side, sweep it down to the opposite leg, and then come straight up the middle. Out, down, and straight up the middle. Last one. Okay, pausing right there. We're going to bring the knee in, give it a little hug. And then we'll release that leg. Give yourself a moment just to see if you can feel a difference between the two legs. And then we're going to hug this leg in, give this one a little squeeze, and spin your foot in circles. The other direction. as you flex the foot back, we're going to see if we can straighten that leg out. And then bend the knee and give that leg a hug in. And then extend out through the heel. Bend that leg, give it a hug in. Extend out through the heel. Bend the leg, you're going to let go of it. You're going to let this right leg get, or whatever leg is the opposite one. I'm like, maybe it's your right leg. We're going to let that leg get nice and firm. This leg goes straight up in the air. Again, hug in through the sides of the waist, trying to hold everything steady. As you go across your body, make a nice big circle out and around. Try not to let your hips lift off the floor. See if you can keep this kind of tucking in of your waist. One more that direction. Come back to the center. We'll go out to the side, bring it to the leg below, and come straight up. Two more. All right, so once you get to the center, we're going to bring both legs in. Give both legs a little bit of a hug. Now, we're going to scissor the legs back and forth. So we're coming back to the straight leg. One leg lowers, one leg comes in. One leg lowers, one leg comes in. So that's the action in the legs. Now, if you've got tight hip flexors, be mindful about lowering the leg. If your low back starts to arch off the floor, you're going too low for the purposes of what we're doing here today. So if you can keep the low back stable, that's what we're after. We're not necessarily trying to lose the curve there. We just want to keep it nice and stable, okay? Now, a couple of different options. If you can't keep your shoulders off the mat without overdoing things with the neck, if you can keep the neck nice and stable and do this work with your core, excellent. Then you could reach up with the arms and catch hold of that leg to give yourself that little extra bit of lift. Again, you can do this with the hands behind the head. You just want to hold the leg. As one leg lowers, you'll curl up towards that one that's not lowering. Other leg lowers, curl up. Okay? Exhale, nice and sharp. Get rid of the extra air so you can hug in that, hug in your abdominals to add those little extra curls. Good. Don't pull on your neck. Keep your head pressing into your hands if you're doing this method. Keep going. Two more. And then bring both your legs together when you're even. And pause for a moment. You can straighten the legs all the way out. Rinse everything a bit. Oh. Okay. All right. Yogis, we are going to do one more little exercise while we're here. We're going to lower the legs. I know this is not everyone's favorite, but if it's yours, cool, this is your chance. So again, you could put your hands behind your head. You're going to curl the shoulder blades up off the mat, bring the head into a neutral position, and then press the head into the hands. So you've got a good firm pressure there, and hold your neck nice and stable. Then the legs will come up. You'll glue them together nice and tight. You can even squeeze a block between them if that's helpful. Lower the legs down for a count of 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. 4, 3, 2, 1. Bring it back. Now, some of us have, like longer legs than torso, that sort of thing. If it's really hard to stabilize your low back that way, then you can instead bring your hands down, leave your head on the ground, and then do the work with the legs this way, lowering down 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause right there, really stabilize through that belly. 3, 2, 1, and come on back. Okay. So pick the methodology that's going to work best for you. Lower and down 4, 3, 2, 1, hold, hug in the sides of the waist, 2, 1, come on back, lower down, 4, 3, 2, 1, hug in, 3, 2, 1, coming back, lowering, 1, 2, 3, 4, hugging, 4, 3, 2, 1, coming back, 2 more, lower, 4, 3, 2, 1, hugging, 4, 3, 2, 1, coming back. We got 1 more to go, yogis, we can do it. 4, 3, 2, 1, hold, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, come on back. Oh, sometimes you need that little extra. All right, yogis, rinse it out a little bit, see where it left you. Let's check out how your core work worked for you this morning. Now, we're gonna come up to all fours. You can do that by rolling like a ball, or you can do that by not rolling like a ball. That's up to you. If rolling like a ball is fun for you, then by all means, roll like a ball. I think it's kind of fun. Oh. Now, once you're up and you've rolled to your satisfaction, you can come to all fours. Now, we're gonna work up and down a few times with the back. And if you just finished rolling like a ball, this shape might feel really weird. This shape might feel a lot more normal. So take it easy on the shapes that feel a little weird at first. What feels like neutral. Bring the head to a neutral position. So feel what it's like to let the head totally drop. Feel what it's like to lift the head. And then try to find that spot where it feels like your ears kind of line up with your shoulders. Then we're going to take the head over to the left, the tailbone over to the left, and stretch out the right side of the rib cage. Come back to neutral and try to keep your head neutral rather than lifting the chin, which is my tendency. So I have to really concentrate. Right hip, right, head to the right, and then out to the left rib cage. Come back to the center, make sure everything's neutral. Head to the left, tailbone to the left, stretch out the right ribs. Come back to neutral. Head to the right, tailbone to the right, stretch out the left ribs. Back to neutral, we're gonna do it one more time. Head to the left, tailbone to the left, right rib stretch out. Now we're gonna hold steady here. So my tendency is to lift my chin. Try to keep the chin level or pointing down toward the ground. So this becomes more a true side stretch and not so much a twist. Last breath here. And then coming back to center, we're gonna do the same thing going the other way. So tailbone over to the right, head to the right, try to keep that chin level. Take nice deep breaths into the left ribs. Okay, one more. And then we're going to come back to the center. Now, take your knees a little on the wide side. We're going to do a twisting position here. So we'll take one arm underneath. Now you can wrap this arm behind your back or use it to kind of gently stretch and turn yourself a little more into the twist, pulling backwards to get a little more into that shoulder blade stretch. You can adjust the hips appropriately for your back. Taking one more big breath here. We're gonna come back to the center. Pause for a moment. You can stretch your arms all the way out if you like. Rest your forehead on the floor. Notice the difference between the two shoulders. And then we'll do the opposite side. So we'll stretch this underneath. And again, you could wrap this arm behind you, or the way I use it is to kind of press myself back into that stretch a little bit and twist a bit more. Take one more big breath here, and then we're going to come on back to the center. All right, one more moment here to just rinse out the arm, check in with both. If there's any more tension in your upper back that you can relieve or release, bring relief to. All right, so we're going to take ourselves into a downward facing dog. So hands about shoulder distance apart, tuck your toes, send your hips up. We'll start with a little movement in the shoulders. So once the hands are placed so that the shoulders feel like they're kind of aligned with the arm bones, we're going to take the shoulder blades closer to the hips and closer to the ears, closer to the hips, closer to the ears, and then find a spot where it feels like they really engage with your upper back. Bend your knees as much as you need to, pull backwards, give yourself that long stretch through the torso. And then if you've got room, start walking the heels up and down. Stretch through the calf muscles, the heels, hamstrings and hips. Shake out your neck, and then bring your head to neutral right between your arms. We're going to take one more breath. All right, so then you're going to walk yourself or hop yourself up to the top of your mat. Give yourself a moment when you get there to come up halfway. Exhale, fold forward. Give everything a bit of a rinse. And we're going to see how straight the legs can get. You might need quite a bend in your knees. And then we're going to come up back to that halfway mark. Bend the knees quite a bit. And then we're going to come up with the upper body and stand all the way up to straight. Give yourself a nice big stretch. All right, yogis. So fix any wardrobe malfunctions that may have come up for you. And then you'll walk up to the top edge. If you've got a mat, you're not using a mat, just somewhere. Like, give yourself some room behind you. So you're gonna find yourself in a mountain pose. Feet falling out from underneath the hips. Shoulders relaxed down your back. Pause for a moment, try to spread out the toes. See if it feels like you're standing evenly on your feet. So there's a little arch between the big toe and the little toe. Can you feel that? There's an arch between the big toe and the heel, and a smaller one between the little toe and the heel. Can you feel all those arches in your foot operating here? So we're gonna balance on the toes. If we can, take the arms up. So reach up, balance on your toes. Come back down, let the heels plant on the floor. See if you can reestablish that connection to your arches. Lift up onto the toes. Come down, see if you can reestablish that connection. Lift onto the toes. We're going to hold steady here now, if we can, for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now as the heels plant, you're going to fold forward. Come up halfway. Exhale, fold. We're going to step back into dog. From downward dog, we're going to float forward into a plank. You may have to make some adjustments. You can, if you like, modify your plank. You can, if you like, take one leg up, whether that's a modified or a full plank. Hold it steady now for 3, 2, 1. We're going to lower down, so you'll push the leg back down. Come into your cobra or your upward dog. Come on back. Push yourself back up to plank. And back into down dog. So we're going to take that right leg up. Bring the knee in, give your back a bit of a rounding. Inhale, stretch that leg back, sink into your left heel a bit. Head in neutral, reach through the leg. We're gonna step the right leg forward. Now we're gonna start with a bit of a lunging shape. So we've got the heel in the air, right knee relatively over the right ankle. I'm gonna add some blocks because this will make things easier on me. So I can get my chest up. Your arms might be long enough for that all by themselves. So we're gonna lift the hips and kind of fold over the front leg. Then you're gonna bend the knees slightly, press back through your heel, stretch through the back of the leg in back, right? Stretch through the calf muscles. And then we're gonna come back to the lunge, lift the heart forward. So folding, we're gonna lift the hips. Press down through the heel, little bend in the knee. And then come back to the lunge. We'll do that one more time. Hips lift, fold over the front leg. Bend the knee a bit, press down through your heel. Come back to the lunge shape. We're gonna try a little balance work. So we're gonna do a half moon balance. We're gonna put the arm in front. We're gonna lift ourselves up. It might take a hop or two. And then once here, we're gonna try to lift off of the left arm and stretch open. See if you can lift yourself up for this left hip. It might be wobbly. Catch if you fall. One more big breath. Good. So put both hands back down. We're gonna take this leg all the way back, and then we'll step back into down dog. Feel the difference between the right side and the left side. So we're gonna come forward into the plank. Again, you can maintain a full plank. You could modify the plank. Whichever choice you make, you can do one leg in the air if you like to try to make that a little more challenging. Hold it steady now. 3, 2, 1. Then we're gonna replace the leg, lower down. Come into your cobra or your up dog and come back to down dog. The left leg's gonna go up. We're gonna bring it in, give it a curl. Stretch back, pause right there, sink into your right heel if you can. Reach through that left leg. Bring that forward. And then we're gonna come to that lunge shape again. Orient yourself so that it feels like you've got the right amount of distance there. So again, we're gonna lift the hips, fold over the leg a bit, bend the knee a bit more, press back through the heel. Stretch through those calf muscles, and then come back to the lunge and lift the heart. Hips lift, folding. A little softer, press back through the heel. Back to the lunge, heart lifts. One more time, hips lift, fold. Little bend, heel. Back to the lunge, heart lifts, and this is going to be our little foray into the balance. So reach an arm up front, picking up your right leg. See if you can't pick up that right arm. Lift through your right hip and stretch. Balance, or not so balance. Last big breath here. Beautiful. So we're going to bring both hands down. This time we're going to bring the leg down and pause. Right here, fold over, come up halfway. We're gonna fold again and see how deeply or how much you can straighten out your legs. And then we'll come all the way to standing. Give yourself a big breath when you get there. And come back to mountain pose. Okay, so we find ourselves standing tall, and then we're going to try that balancing again on the tiptoes. So we're going to lift up and come back down, and again feel yourself make contact with all points in the feet. Lift up, come down, establish that contact. One more time, coming up, Holding steady here, lifting, 3, 2, 1. Put the heels down, fold forward. Come up halfway. Exhale, fold. And we're going to step back into down dog. And then moving forward into plank. Holding steady for 3, 2, 1. Choosing to lower down your way. Coming into your back bend. Coming back to dog. Take a nice big breath, lift your right leg up behind you. As you exhale, we're going to try to bring that up to this upper right arm. Inhale, stretch it back. Sink a bit into your heel. And then step that foot forward. Now, we're going to bring the back heel all the way around so that we're in a warrior 2 shape, but we're not going anywhere yet. So holding steady with the legs to see if you can kind of pick yourself up. If you've got blocks, grab them because they're helpful. And then we're going to stay with this diagonal. So I'm going to try to keep this knee tracking straight over those toes. It's going to want to come with me, but I'm going to work on keeping it there as I kind of bow into this space for a humble warrior here. Now again, we're going to play with the legs. So we're going to see what happens if we try to straighten out the front leg and then bend it back into that warrior 2. Try to keep that knee directed forward. And give it a bit of a straightening. And then bring it back. Try to keep that knee tracking forward. All right, so then we're going to come around and we're going to turn this into a triangle. So I'm going to put this block right by my ankle, but you could just grab your shin or press into the floor. So before I straighten my leg all the way out, I'm going to take a moment and align my spine and then straighten the leg. Now, you can put your arm up if you want to, but we're going to do some work with the head. So if it's okay, roll that shoulder blade around a couple times, place the shoulder blade nicely into your back, and then leave your arm more on the side. You can put your hand on your hip if that's helpful. Now looking down at your big toe, we'll start there. And then just turning the head, we're going to see how far up towards the ceiling we can look. And then bring the head back. If it feels like your chin is lifting, see what happens if you try to bring your neck to neutral. And then look up. And bring it back. One more time, look up. Bring it back. We're going to bring both hands around to the center and both feet around. So you're going to spin the feet. You might have to do a little adjustment. And one more time, you could use your blocks here for what is kind of like a wide angle downward dog. Get your head right between your upper arms so the neck is in neutral. You can bend the knees if you like, and then see what happens if we sort of take this wider dog. All right, yogis. So we're going to come around to do the opposite side. So we're going to put our blocks. I'm going to go this way, so I think it's easier to see the camera angles if I stay facing you. But you'll go the same way you've been going. So we're going to step ourselves back to down dog. Feel the difference, if there is one, between the two hemispheres. Come forward into a plank. And then, of course, choosing your plank, it might be modified for 3, 2, 1, lowering down. Coming into your cobra or your upward dog. Coming back to down dog. We're going to take the left leg up. Try to bring it to the upper left arm. Take it back. Give it a bit of a sink. And then we're going to step forward. And again, we're going to try this warrior 2 shape with the legs. But we're not going anywhere. We're going to stay on this diagonal plane. Again, I find the blocks helpful. Okay? You don't have to use them. You can touch the ground. So we're going to try to keep the knee tracking forward over the toes as we bow into the humble warrior. right, let's play with the front leg, shall we? So we're going to try to straighten it out and bring it back and bow a little deeper if there's availability for that. Straighten it out, bring it back, bow a little more deeply. One more time, we're going to straighten that out. Come on back, bow a little more deeply. And then we're going to try to turn this into our triangle. Okay, so again, I'm going to keep this knee a little bent until I get my back nice and long, and then I'll come into that fuller version. And again, I'm going to do a little movement with my shoulder. You can put your arm straight up if you like. I'm going to let my arm kind of stay down here. Look down at your big toe. Try to get your chin as level as you can so that when you look up, your head turns in a level way on the spine. And then come on back down, look at your big toe. Inhale, look up. Exhale, look down. Inhale, look up. Exhale, look down. One more time. Inhale, look up. Exhale, look down. So we're going to take this to that wider space. We're coming around the center. Bring in the foot with you. And you might use the blocks to create that kind of downward dog, slightly elevated, maybe a little bend in the knees. I like the way this lets me keep the weight in my legs and get a little extra shoulder opening. If I did that with all the weight in my upper body, I'd risk damaging my rotator cuff, but without weight on it, it's kind of great. So we're going to come back around and land on our belly and do some work with Cobra. So you're going to take yourself back into your downward dog. Feel if there's a difference between the two. Last time and this time. And then we're going to come all the way down to the belly for some work with Cobra. All right, yogis, start with, my furry coworkers are awake today. Start with your hands right under your shoulders. Reach through the legs and press them into the ground a bit. We're going to lift and come back down. Now try to lift with your back muscles. Take the hands back about an inch or so. Lift, use your back muscles, draw the elbows back and pull against the floor. And then come on back down. One more time, we're going to lift. Good. Try to keep the neck more neutral rather than jerking back. And then we're going to come into a Sphinx pose. So we get to rest on the elbows here, but we're going to try to find this kind of neutral space with the neck. So adjust. The elbows might need to be closer in or further out for you to feel like you can get a neutral position in your neck. So the tendency is to want to lift the chin, but we want to try to create some length right here where the skull meets the top of the neck, right, the neck vertebrae. And then creating that length there, you can pull back a little bit through the elbows. We're going to turn the head and look out towards our left. Bring the head back, turn the head, look out towards the right. Notice if there are muscles that feel like they're tight, that resist this movement, and see if you can create more length through the back of the neck. And we're going to do it twice more, looking over the left side, coming back, looking over the right side, coming back. One more time over the left side, coming back, over the right side, coming back. Now, we're going to stretch ourselves all the way. We're going to put the hips over top of the hips, shoulders over top of the shoulders. We're going to take this top leg and bring it up with a pointy toe, flex the foot to bring the leg down. Now, our task is to try to hold this really stable while we do it. If you need a little bit more stability, you can swing the legs a little bit forward, put the hand in front. If you're feeling pretty stable and strong, keep the legs lined up with the torso. If you're needing a little extra challenge, try hovering the legs so that you don't have any stability from the bottom leg. Going up and coming down. So it's a very simple movement. The action is in the stabilization here through the torso. Right, so we're going to come up one more time, come down about halfway or so, a little higher than the hip. Keep this external rotation and circle the leg. Try to hold steady through the torso. Pause right there. We're going to rotate the leg now internally, so we're going to try to hold steady with the hip, but turn the femur bone in. It won't turn in a lot for some of us. And then go the other direction with your circles. Okay, we're going to pause right there, lower the leg, bring the feet in, lift the feet. So we've got the knees together and the feet together. We're going to take the knees apart, then kick if you can. Bring that back and close it up. So we should be getting some nice work in this outer hip through all of these exercises. Hopefully you're feeling it. All right, we're going to do it 2 more. That's 1 and 2. Now, when the knees come together, straighten the legs back out. We're going to take this top leg over, put the foot on the ground if you like, or you can let the leg be straight, or you can put the knee on the floor. That's up to you. Then I'm going to press a little bit through so that I lengthen right here along the side of my waist, and then I'm going to lift this bottom leg. So for me, there's a tendency to collapse here, so I'm going to try to keep that length. Lifting that bottom leg as high as I can, pulsing it up then for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Holding it steady now. 10, 9. Can you dig in a little deeper through these deep muscles? 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bring it on down. So we're going to take this shoulder around just to give a little extra stretch to that side of our hip. Nice. And then we'll come back onto the back and pause for a moment and just notice. Now, we're going to take this same leg, the left leg, and make that the stable place. The right leg we're going to put up on top. And then we're going to try to do a little lift into a bridge pose. So snuggle your shoulders under. If you need to put the leg back down, put the leg back down and do it with 2 legs. So see if you can lift yourself into bridge, and then try to pause and hold that hip steady. And we'll hold here if we can for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lowering down. Release both legs. Give yourself a little jiggle. All right, so we're gonna do the other side. You could, if you're okay with just rolling away, you can roll away from the, I don't know, screen. Otherwise, you can follow along with me and come around 180 degrees. All right, so we're gonna get ourselves lined up. Hips and shoulders aligned. We're gonna get things out of my way here. And then we're gonna do the top leg comes up and flex the foot to come down. Again, the action is holding steady here and doing that movement to create resistance. pause about that halfway point. Keep the leg externally rotated, make some circles, try to hold steady. Pause right there, rotate the leg down so that you've got an internal rotation, try to keep a nice stable place. Rotate the leg the other direction, or whatever direction you can remember. One more. Beautiful. So then we're going to bring the heels together, bring them back. So knees are together, heels are together, lift the feet. And then we're going to open the knees, extend the leg if you can, bring it back, close it up. If you can't extend the leg, if that's too much work, just hold it steady for that extra beat. It'll get stronger over time, so no worries there. I'm going to try to do 3 more of these. I know it's getting difficult. Last one. Beautiful. So then we're going to stretch the legs out. Bring this leg around the top one way or another. Create a little length here, so don't collapse your hips. See if you can keep that space. Lift that bottom leg. Okay? So holding steady. Lift the bottom leg a little bit higher now for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now lift a little higher if you can. Hold steady. 4, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Dig in. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Come on down. We're going to come around into the bridge shape in just a moment. First, we're just going to rotate around a little bit and then complete that move. So we're still working with this right hip and butt cheek if we can. So we're going to put that left leg up on top, snuggle the shoulder blades in, lift your hips up, and then hold it if you can. Hold the hips steady for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Come on back down. Rinse everything out. And some of you might have to scooch off to work, but if you can do it, give yourself a couple of minutes to just stretch out and relax. Whether you put in some extra pillows or blankets, or just stretch out on the floor. Give yourself a few moments just to relax. Everybody's nervous system at this point could probably use a few moments just to breathe deeply into the diaphragm, with the diaphragm, and maybe linger on those exhales just a bit to help calm the nervous system. yet, but do just notice your breath again. So deep you can feel it all the way to your toes. Let go with a really big pause for a second, give your fingers and toes a bit of a wiggle. And then you can stretch out your hands. Give your wrist and ankles a little bit of movement. Stretch out your toes and your hand. Give them movement again. And then give your whole body a stretch. Now, yogis, we can bring ourselves to a seated position with or without rolling like a ball. So thanks for hanging out with me for the whole Shavasana. We're going to take a nice big breath together. Nice big inhale. And a big deep sigh. And if you need more Shavasana, I don't blame you. Keep going. Namaste.